Now joined by Sarah Barbo, Manager of Corporate Strategy for CMS Energy. Welcome, Sarah.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So, Sarah, we have a global audience, and I'm not sure they would all know off the top of their heads who CMS Energy is, so why don't you just give us a little overview of the organization?
Absolutely. So CMS Energy is an energy company headquartered in Michigan in the US. It's the parent company of two groups. One is CMS Enterprises, which is an unregulated arm that does renewables projects, development as well as owning and operating, as well as energy marketing. And then the other piece of it is Consumers Energy, which is a regulated investor-owned utility. We have both an electric and a gas business. It's the largest electric gas utility in Michigan and the fourth largest in the country.
Wow.
So your title is Manager of Corporate Strategy. So what are some of the strategies that have been evolving at CMS?
So it's been an exciting time, actually, to have joined the strategy group there because we're looking out 10 years and seeing changes in the industry that we haven't seen for 20, 30, 40 years. So it's been an interesting time of change just in terms of what we're considering as well as even the scale of things that we're thinking about there. So I think all things are involved here in terms of looking at our generation mix. We still have, as a utility, we still have generation assets.
Please
and so
take your
looking at our
seats.
generation
The
mix,
show is
looking
about
at
to
the
begin.
impact of distributed energy resources, how are those coming into our grid, how's energy flowing back out, the relationships with our customers, how those are changing, how things like electric vehicles are molding that relationship and finding new ways to interact with the grid. So it's been really exciting. From our perspective, we're kind of this like grid, literally the grid level aggregator, orchestrator, trying to figure out how all these technologies on the generation side and the software side, cybersecurity side, how they're all going to fit together and make sure that we, literally keep the lights on and keep houses heated.
Cool.
Yeah.
So,
Can I ask
Yeah.
a quick question? So I know in the past year you guys came out with an energy and climate strategy. And I know that you're currently in the process of trying to achieve those new sustainability goals. Can you
Yes.
tell us about what those goals are?
Yes, I'd love to, and I think for this audience it's perfect. So just as a bit of background, one of the centerpieces of our strategy is the triple bottom line of planet, profit, and people. And I will say I've been very impressed that all of those have equal weight, and that's not something we've said just saying, we're doing that as well. So you asked about the climate goals, which is of course a big part of the planet piece. So we looked through a big process with a lot of stakeholders in Michigan across all aspects of the economy. We looked and got feedback on them to develop these goals, and we said by 2040, which for utility is pretty near term, by 2040, we have a few aspirations. One is we're going to decrease our emissions by 80%. Another is that we're going to increase the renewables in our mix up to 40%. And then the third, which I think is both high impact as well as high symbolic act, is we'll be completely coal-free by 2040 as well, which I think is just a very cool goal for a lot of reasons.
How much of your portfolio is coal right now?
I think it's believed to be about like 25 to 40%.
Wow.
And even that has come down. In the last couple of years, we've retired half of our coal plants. And we've got plans now between now and 2040 to retire the rest.
so being based in Michigan, you've got all the big auto companies there, and a big theme at Verge this year is around fleet electrification. So are you talking with them about that and developing strategies for that?
Yes, we are. And I think we've got great relationships with the automakers. And then as you allude to, especially in Lansing, our capital, automakers and the legacy around not only the automakers, but the entire industry that supports them. It's a huge part of Michigan's economy. So it's something that we take seriously as well. So we've got a few things going on with them. One is we've started a smart charging pilot where we're looking at how can we partner with GM in particular with this pilot to better interact with their cars when they're plugging into the grid and be able to say when to start or stop charging based on the grid needs. So that's a huge goal for us, is to be able to make sure that the electric vehicles that come onto the grid are a benefit and not a burden. We think that there's definitely a huge opportunity for them to be a benefit They can help fill in the troughs when we have excess capacity. We can shift the load so that they're not adding to the peak. So this is one of the things we've started to explore with the OEMs is just how do we, getting through the data walls on our end and on your end, and how do we get there that we can see what the cars are doing and help influence that behavior.
So now, as you're implementing your new strategy, do you see response from your consumer base or your customer base? Are they knowledgeable of this? Are they excited about what you're doing?
Yeah, and I think there's different levels of that we see. I think that, as I've mentioned, this whole process has been very stakeholder-led. The big piece around our planet goals was a big effort. A lot of what went into that underpinning was something called our integrated resource plan, which is our investment plan over the next 20 years, also very stakeholder heavy. So I think there's been a lot of stakeholders involved all along the way. And on the EV part in particular too, I think that's how we've made a lot of headway. Back in November, we filed a set of joint principles to our commission that said basically EVs are here and they're coming and growing in our market. There isn't enough charging infrastructure right now in our state, and utilities have a role to play. And it wasn't just utilities signing it, it was the OEMs, it was the charging manufacturers, it was the environmental organizations. And so I think that really helped our commission feel comfortable moving into an area that's unfamiliar and new to them.
Fantastic. So we've been here with Sarah Barbo, the Manager of Corporate Strategy for CMS Energy, and we're about ready to send it to the main stage.